Dr. Jordan Peterson is at it again. Fresh off his interview with Kathy, so what you're saying is, Newman, and the success of his new book 12 Rules for Life, he's making waves across the media. However, it's become apparent that whenever Dr. Jordan Peterson goes viral, so do his hit pieces. The one I'd like to discuss is the latest Guardian article titled, "How Dangerous is Jordan B. Peterson, the Professor Who Hit a Hornet's Nest?" As with hit pieces in the past, it shows us just how far people are willing to go to avoid criticizing any of Dr. Jordan Peterson's arguments, instead opting to attack him personally. The article starts by mentioning some of his achievements, and then goes on to cite people who disagree with Jordan Peterson. Great, let's hear their counter-arguments. Not everybody is persuaded that Peterson is a thinker of substance, however. Last November, fellow University of Toronto professor Ira Wells called him the Professor of Piffle, a YouTube star rather than a credible intellectual. Tabitha Southey, a columnist for the Canadian magazine Mcleans, designated him the stupid man's smart person. Ah, I see. So everyone that agrees with Jordan Peterson is stupid. It's easier to use the ad hominem attack, the stupid man's smart person, to attack Jordan Peterson personally, and more broadly the people that agree with him, than it is to use logic to dismantle any ideas he puts forth. Diving deeper into the stupid man smart person article, that author went on to say that Dr. Jordan Peterson's arguments aren't valid because he's alt-right. To be clear, Jordan Peterson is not a neo-Nazi. Whoa. Just to be clear, guys, not a neo-Nazi. But there's a reason he's as popular as he is on the alt-right. You'll never hear him use the phrase, "we must secure a future for our white children." What you will hear him say is that, while there does appear to be a causal relationship between empowering women and economic growth, we have to consider whether this is good for society, because the birth rate is plummeting. He doesn't call for a white ethno-state, but he does retweet Daily Caller articles with the opening lines like, "Yet again, an American city is being torn apart by black rioters." A man making the claim that the birth rate is dropping due to more women pursuing careers does not mean he's in support of securing a future for our white children over all the rest. It simply means that he's worried about children in general and is a far cry from being alt-right, never mind neo-Nazi. Just as Peterson noting that black riots are becoming more common does not mean he's in support of a white ethno-state. Let's not label people alt-right or neo-Nazi simply because we don't agree with them, especially since you didn't flesh out any logical fallacies within their arguments. Here's an idea, Guardian. If you have to cite someone else to show how Jordan Peterson's arguments are lacking, then you might want to cite people that actually attack the logic behind those arguments and didn't just make ad hominem attacks on Jordan Peterson. If you're going to just call names, you might as well do it yourself. Various other hit pieces note how the alt-right supports Dr. Jordan Peterson. Ergo, his ideas are toxic and we should disavow them. This is an ad hominem attack by association. Much like the KKK actually endorsed Donald Trump, you can't control who endorses you and uses your ideas to further their evil agenda. Simply claiming that because someone supports you, you automatically support their ideas is just simply untrue. Let's continue with what the Guardian said. Even when they know people that Peterson does support and does associate with, instead of unpacking the ideas and the logic behind it, the author discredits Peterson's work solely based upon the fact that Peterson supports someone who the author considers to have toxic ideas. Islamophobia is a word created by fascists and used by cowards to manipulate morons. White privilege is a Marxist lie. Believing that gender identity is subjective is as bad as claiming that the world is flat. Unsurprisingly, he was an early supporter of James Damore, the engineer fired by Google for his memo, Google's Ideological Echo Chamber. In other words, Islamophobia is not a manipulative word. White privilege is not a myth. Believing that gender identity is subjective is not crazy, and only people like that misogynist James Damore would believe the contrary. Except involving support of James Damore, misogynist or not, doesn't refute any of the logic in Jordan Peterson's claims. Also, James Damore? Really? That's your smoking gun of a misogynist? The guy made it very clear in his manifesto that he supports women in tech. Perhaps the saddest ad hominem attack was the one in the hit piece that Mike did, which among other ad hominem attacks, showed Jordan Peterson getting choked up about the plight of the privileged male.
I don't believe that using your pronouns is going to do you any good in the long run.
This is the far-right's new philosopher superstar, and when he thinks of the plight of men in America, it brings him to tears.
Every time the topic comes up, it breaks me up because it's so damn sad.
Aw, boo-hoo. Men are privileged and people tell them this, right? Teardrop. Except they took it out of context.
I read a fascinating interview with you, and you were talking about the plight of young men and how guys really need to get their act together. You went on to say the lack of an identifiable and compelling path forward and the denialism these kids are being fed on a daily basis and undoubtedly destroying them, and that is especially true of the young men. This show we've covered widely the fact that suicide is the biggest killer of young men under the age of 45 in this country. It goes on in that interview to say, at this point, to my astonishment, Peterson begins to weep.
Yeah, well, it says, see, now it did it to me again. Look, last night, I was at this talk I gave, and about 1,000 people came, and about 500 of them stayed afterwards, and most of them were young men, and just one of them after the other comes up to me, and they shake my hand, and they say, look, I've been listening to what you've been saying for 6 months, and it's changed my life. It's like I was depressed, I was addicted to drugs, my relationships weren't working out, I was hopeless, I didn't have any goal. I started cleaning up my room and telling the truth and working hard on myself, and it's really working, and I just want to thank you for helping me. And I think, God, it's so sad that so many of these men, they've not had an encouraging bloody word, a real encouraging word in their entire life. It just takes a little bit of encouragement and care so that they're willing to set themselves straight to some degree and start trying. It's just a catastrophe that's so rare in their lives.
So what you're saying is, if you feel bad that most suicides are young males, you're a sexist lobster. So what you're saying is, if you cry, your argument's invalid. This is a huge ad hominem attack. Not only does it attack the person, but it also attacks their show of emotion. It's a sad thing how news is structured today, where people don't have enough time to look up all the reference information and other articles. You're welcome. People just take the news at face value. People will believe ad hominem attacks like their logic and reasoning. We should all be more critical of our media institutions, especially ones that we've trusted for long amounts of time. Also, in terms of the Guardian article, I would have expected a piece that referenced the interview with Cathy Newman, not to jump to conclusions.
You're saying that we should organise our societies along the lines of the lobsters.
So let's all do a better job of choosing what we read and what we believe in the news. Hopefully, no matter what side regarding Jordan Peterson you fall on, you'll use logic to support your arguments. Hey, thanks for watching. Share this video if you support a lobster ethno-state. Click subscribe for more logic and less illogical villainy. See you next time.